Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. Are you ready? This is your host, Laura Aiisha. Let's do this. All right. Hello, Ignite Intimacy community. This is your host with the most, Miss Laura Aiisha. You know, it's been a while since we've tuned in here. We've been doing replays throughout the summer, and it gave me some time to meditate on what direction I want to go with this podcast. And what I've come to is that I'm ready to release the podcast and pause it indefinitely and explore some new things, new projects, new adventures, new energies. So this is our final episode. As we have known the podcast, I have a sense the Ignite Intimacy brand will live on, and it certainly will live on because, you know, we have 120 episodes for you, your listening pleasure, and they're all packed with juiciness, insights, authenticity, some really amazing people who've shared openly and vulnerably with us through the last 3 years. It's actually been 3 full years since I launched the podcast, and it's really awesome. You know, when in life, in the last 5 years, I have chosen to take action on projects that I've been putting off for a really long time. And years ago, I had a dream of being the new age Dr. Laura. My mom used to listen to Dr. Laura when we were kids. And, you know, I was like, I'm going to be the new age Dr. Laura. And people always told me, oh, you have a great radio voice. You should totally do radio. And always wanted to do a radio show. And then I was like, you know, I chose to do a podcast on a subject that's near and dear to my heart. And to so many of us, it's a crucial part of the human experience. And also, it has nothing to do with what I do professionally. So like, it didn't, you know, there was like no way to like really necessarily cross promote it, or, you know, it wasn't about that for me. It was about doing something that I felt really called to do and passionate about. And yeah, and I feel emotional. So you know, it's a big thing to launch something and feed it over time and manage all of the things within myself that says like, was this successful? Was this not successful? Did we reach people? Did it serve its purpose? And I know absolutely that we served our purpose. And I have received messages on social media from people who have been diagnosed with herpes and never shared it with anyone in their lives. And I was the first person that they shared it with. And, you know, people who felt broken, and like I did when I first found out that I had it 15 years ago. And to me, like, to be a space, that kind of a space for people that's my purpose in the world, you know, and it's something I'm clearly touched by. And so, yeah, so I'm here with a dear, dear sister friend, Stephanie Carlin. We're on the line today to give thanks and, you know, call in the energies and really honor and thank all of you for listening and supporting us and, you know, sharing with your friends and family and posting it. And, you know, it's just always shocking to me when I talk to like one of my brother's friends or some random person I see once a year at a festival, and not a random person, dear friends that I see once a year at a festival or, you know, on a visit through their neighborhood. And they're like, oh yeah, I've been listening to your podcast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. You know, and like people I just wouldn't think would take the time to tune in, you know? And so just really giving you all a big virtual hug. And if you know me, you know I'm kind of obsessed with giving high fives and high tens. It's just, you know, part of the celebration energy that I carry with me in this life. And so, yeah, big virtual love to everyone who's supported the podcast. And, you know, certainly my team, Lindsay and David, who helps with editing. Lindsay absolutely couldn't have done this without her helping me get every episode posted, and, all the folks who've been involved, and all my guests, and, everyone who's really been a huge support. So Stephanie and I are here on the line today. Stephanie is a dear friend. She's someone I work with professionally, and she's someone I really have a lot of love and honor and respect for. She's a powerhouse, goddess powerhouse in the world. And thank you so much for joining us here, Stephanie.
I'm so happy to be here. I've been behind the scenes with you since maybe 6 or 7 months into you starting this podcast. And I've got to watch it grow and watch you grow inside of it. And it's just been so beautiful. Maybe I should tell your listeners who the heck I am. In the world. I'm a singer-songwriter. I run a songwriting school, and over the past 9 years or so, I've supported about 1,200 singer-songwriters in dealing with their stage fright and self-doubt through the law of sound, through the frequencies of their own original music. And it's also the joy and privilege of my life to support women in learning how to fall in love with themselves, which is something that I definitely was not taught. I spent most of my adult life hating myself until about 5 years ago, and actually learning what it meant to delete those programs and rise beyond them into actually truly loving myself and loving my life. So that is the purpose of my life. And you and I have had many a conversation about that. And I'm really here with you today to honor and just hold space for this final episode.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, you started Ignite Intimacy in 2016. And since then, you've recorded about 120 episodes, which is just remarkable. And I want to know, what had you initially start this podcast?
Yeah, well, I've shared this, and some of our listeners may have heard me share this story a couple of times. But, aside from what I shared just earlier in this episode, I hit a wall. I realized that I was giving my precious, magical, amazing time, love, and energy to people who really didn't give a shit about me, and it kind of blew up in my face. And I just said, all right, I'm going on a 6-month menopause. I chose to take 6 months from being intimate with men, from dating. And I just, went within myself. And then about a month into that, I got this download in January of 2016. And it was like, start a podcast about this, go on a journey. And I realized there was, as open as I've always felt and connected to my sexuality, there's so much that I hadn't explored. There were so many ways that I have not been open and vulnerable with partners and with people in my life. There, were, fantasies that I've had that I hadn't been courageous enough to explore. There were, just so many things about my own body that I don't, that I still am discovering, as far as intimacy goes and sexuality. And so I wanted to go on this journey, and part of who I be in the world is that I wanted to bring anyone who wanted to come on the journey along with me. I wanted to create the space for people to come with me on the journey, because not everybody has my personality and is courageous or willing to say hey, I want to try this, or what about anal sex, or what about, threesomes, or what about, sex toys, or what about, or what about healing trauma, or what, so I wanted to create this space where people could learn and grow and enjoy these episodes and this content without necessarily having to have the conversation with people directly themselves. They could learn through this and discover through this, and then use this as a platform for self-discovery within their relationship to themselves, their relationship with their partners. So I just went on the journey, and it's been a phenomenal one, I gotta say. We've covered a lot of topics.
I can really resonate with everything you just said, and I'm sure many people listening can too. I really identify as a free spirit. I really identify as someone who's just so open and open-minded and go with the flow. And my business is literally called Free Spirits Music. That's how much of it is ingrained in my identity. But then as I started putting myself in romantic relationships that require you to be fucking vulnerable, I realized how guarded and protected my heart is, and how truly and genuinely inauthentic it was for me to go around parading that I am this free spirit, when in fact there was this like well of stuff in between me and the person I loved. So I really resonate with that journey. So,
and so, I mean, how many of us are experiencing that, right? Like, I'm a free spirit, I'm open, I'm vulnerable. Like, and through the years, I had so many people say to me, like, do you think maybe you haven't really dialed in with a partner yet because you're not open and vulnerable enough? And it used to piss me off. You know, it'd be like, do you know how open and vulnerable I am? And then it was like, oh, I'm totally hiding. You know, I'm like hiding behind this. I'm a free spirit. I'm open.
I'm pulling open my journal where I write my manifestations, my declarations every day. And today's was, today I commit to modeling the vulnerability I'm asking of you. Because I read that on Brene Brown's new feedback checklist that she has on how to give feedback in an empowering way. And it triggered the fuck out of me that I have to model the level of vulnerability I'm requesting of you, my partner. No, aren't you supposed to go up on your white horse and away? It really triggered me. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Brene Brown, big up Brene Brown. I had the pleasure of watching her Netflix special recorded live. And I have also had the pleasure of having friends from around the world text me, message me like, did I see you in the Brene Brown special? So if you haven't seen it, check it out on Netflix, Brene Brown's 1 hour special. It's really powerful. She shares some amazing things there, and she's got some incredible TED Talks about vulnerability, which I know many of you may not be aware of, because I'm still surprised to meet people who are like, who? What? I was like, oh my God, you need to get to a computer ASAP when you have 20 minutes and watch her vulnerability TED Talk. It's really, really powerful and profound. And yeah, like we need to model that which we're asking for, right? You talked about self-love as well. And something that you're very much aware of is how my experience of self-love has just cracked open over the last 6 months. And there's no doubt that is directly related to, the experience of doing this podcast and going on this exploration and creating what I truly want to experience in my life with myself, with others, and, friendships and romantic partners, with my family. And it is so in process. It's such a journey,
I really want your listeners to get how much you've been walking the walk and not just talking the talk. Like, I have watched you over these 6 months go to like the depths of shadows, the darkness, that like little 6-year-old inside of all of us that like we don't want to look at. And you've been tending to her and taking care of her and helping her so that like the woman of your dreams can emerge out of her.
Yeah.
That's like me, like skimming the surface of what I've seen you do. Like the real, bold, honest, vulnerable heart, soul work.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. And, you've certainly been such a huge part of that journey and that process. And I'm so deeply grateful for your support and love and feedback and just reminders. And I'm sorry that I haven't shared more about this journey with our audience. There's an episode or two, I'm sure, over the last 3 or 4 months that I've tapped into this a bit. I don't exactly remember which episodes at this point, but yeah, I really I met someone and fell really hard. And it was like, there was so much over here with me around it. And what ultimately it ended up creating for me was this opportunity to love myself more. And that was another thing that used to piss me off, is like, people would be like, you need to love yourself more. You need to, and I'd be like,
so irritating.
Oh my God. I've been working on self-love for 10 years. Like, it's not like I'm a newbie or a beginner at learning how to love myself. Like, do you know how much progress I've made? And then this whole experience started happening, and it was just like, oh, this is what all those people are talking about, like, Wow. Okay. Like I get to really dive into self-love on a much deeper level.
I mentioned hating myself earlier in my
Mm.
life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I walked around being like, oh, I hate myself. I live on a frequency unconsciously saying I hate myself. I was very intellectually, consciously aware of how much I loved myself. Posting
Mm.
all my little Instagram quotes about self-care and self-love.
Mm.
It's not like the whole awakening had to occur for me to actually reflect back and be like, wow, I really existed on a frequency where I didn't love myself.
Yeah.
Collapsing sex with love, where I have no idea how to advocate for what I want, where I have gastrointestinal issues that are chronic and no doctor can solve, because I then discover that the energy center of the GI tract is love. So if I'm hating
Mm.
myself and not loving myself, it's only natural and in alignment that I'm having chronic GI issues, which I then
Mm.
healed when I started falling in love with myself and really
Mm.
doing the work that I've watched you do over the past 6 months to fall in love with yourself and use these romantic interactions as like the divine teachers that they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This guy you fell for was nothing but a divine teacher to like have the initiation of what self-love and truly loving yourself really is. And
Absolutely. And
that's, go ahead,
yeah,
please.
no, please, please, please.
Well, that's one of the core takeaways of what I see you've learned out of this
Mm-hmm.
journey. And I'd
Yeah.
love to hear a little more about your experience of that takeaway and any other takeaways you've gotten from your several years with this podcast.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make him so wrong, and I got so fully in this experience that I am the source of my life. I am the source of my life. I have chosen everything I've chosen, everybody I've chosen, I am the source. And it was like sometimes a moment by moment practice to keep rerouting back to me because I wanted to dig into this person.
Well, what I saw is you wanted to demand that he make you happy.
Yes. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
make you happy. And what you had to keep coming back to was, holy shit, only I can make myself happy.
That's right.
Which
That's
is the
right.
fucking gift of
Key.
heaven.
The key. And also like only I can love myself fully and wholly so that is reflected to others of how I am a stand for receiving love and being treated and respected and honored. And like ultimately I get to say yes or no. Like, yes, I'm feeling this with you. And no, I'm not feeling that with you. And it's up to me to be strong enough within myself, no matter how good the sex is, no matter how deep the soul connection is, like no matter how good it feels when we hug and touch, no matter how brilliantly synchronistic, magical, and beautiful the story of how we met and continued to connect was or is, no matter about any of that stuff, because it's all just a story and part of my past anyways. I get to say like, this works for who I am today and who I'm becoming. And this doesn't work for who I am today and who I'm becoming. And then I need to source the strength from within myself to cut the cords. And that was not easy to do. And it freaked me out.
We had many a conversation about cutting the cords.
We did.
Like, nope, not yet. No.
Or like I would do it sort of, but not fully until I was like such a stand for myself and for me being the source of my life that I said, I have to do this. And so some of the things that I've absolutely gotten is that it's a process. Life is a process. We're here, we're in the journey, we're on the journey, we're, traveling through time and space, hurling through, the universe on planet Earth, and that we always have a choice. That I am the source of my happiness. I am the source of my self-love. That I get the power of choice as to who I share my time, energy, love, and space with, and who I choose not to, no matter how enticing and seductive that energy is. And also that I have experienced now enough times where I have tried to hold on to something for dear life. And because I could not let go and release it, it completely blew up in my face and in the other person's face, like in ways that have been so heartbreaking and so messed up, and took, some experiences years to heal from. And so I know now, as the grown ass woman that I am today, that, oh, I don't need to go through all of that anymore. Like, I can stop now. I
Mm.
can notice the signals. Oh, okay, this is familiar. That's okay. That's familiar. Ooh, I know what this energy means, and I can make a choice in that moment to say, like, I don't care how good the sex is. Like, no.
I have been doing these active meditations for about an hour and a half every day. And what I've been practicing on, and this is really fucking hard for me, but it's effective. Okay. I'm not going to say this like I'm like the Buddha. What I've been practicing on is just radiating my light and taking up room. And the mantra of my damn life is let it be easy and receive it. And I just wait to receive it. When like my conditioning, my patterns want to control, manipulate, protect, defend, force outcomes. And I am just leaning into receiving from the man I love, receiving from, all the dreams that are now like becoming reality in my life. There are so many. And I have to recommit to it every 10 seconds sometimes in just receiving through my light. And that's what came to mind when you said where you've really arrived as a grown-ass woman. Is to not keep pushing it into the ground.
That's right.
And it's really time to receive. So
absolutely.
So Laura, what's next for you? What's next for you and your own personal discoveries of intimacy?
What's next for me is to be open and vulnerable, to be willing to share myself with others as a source of deep connection and love, to give more time and energy towards the people who are showing up on the regular in my life, who are actually showing interest, who are, interested in knowing me more, interested in, having more experiences with me, and to allowing others the space to be human, and to give others the space and the love and the patience that I desire others to give to me when, we're getting to know each other and relating, and, if somebody's in a funky place, and, and noticing my judgments and biases and fears, and just being clear enough and settled within myself enough to say, like, a human being on planet Earth, working it out.
And what I hear in that is a willingness to be disappointed.
Yes.
Because that's what is inherent in embracing our humanity, isn't it? That like,
yes,
we are going to disappoint each other and we are going to hurt each other. And how do you lean back into love? How do you release that? How do you cut that cord the minute it happens instead of holding on to it for a decade or a lifetime or 3? That willingness to be disappointed and to still fall in love anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And that too, the willingness to be disappointed by someone and to maintain faith and trust and love, until at which time it may be clear that that is not someone who I want to share that with anymore. Or until which time the bond becomes stronger, and we become more trusting of each other, and we, and also like giving so much thanks for this wild, dynamic, wonderful experience I've had, where at any given time I may have several men in my life who I'm talking to, texting, maybe some of them I'm, making out with or being more physically intimate with, and saying like, wow, I actually have quite a few friends who live vicariously through me, because I haven't had a long-term partnership in many, 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 many years. So also like giving thanks for this experience, and knowing that when I have more committed partner, that it's going to be just a new experience. So like enjoying this now and having fun and being open and being willing to connect and play and dance with others. And then being mindful of when there's something new in the mix that feels like, oh, this feels like it could go somewhere, and being open to exploring that.
I think that your podcast really has imprinted for me and for many others that anything is possible. Like
Yes.
You can really have the relationship of your dreams your way. Nothing's off limits when you're inside of communication.
That's right.
And I really honor that message that you've made available to so many people.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so, so grateful that you've been here with us today, Stephanie. You are just such a rock star. I love you dearly. I'm so deeply grateful for your love and support on this journey and on my life journey. And I want you to let our audience know, how can they find you online if they want to learn more and connect?
Oh, so I love working with women. I'm an energy expert, healer, coach, and you can find me at Free Spirits Music. That's spirits with an S, freespiritsmusic.com/unstoppable.
Great. freespiritsmusic.com/unstoppable. Carlin will have the links in the show notes. Ignite Intimacy Community. You are the bomb diggity. Thank you so, 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 so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all the love. We feel it. We love it. We see it. We'd love to hear from you. Keep listening. There are 120 episodes. I'm assuming most of you haven't listened to all of them. So keep listening. The podcast lives on. It will remain on iTunes and Spotify and, through Libsyn and Stitcher and the other avenues where you folks are listening. And keep listening, keep sharing, keep sending us emails, hello@igniteintimacy.com. All of that stuff is living on. We want to hear from you. And we're so, so deeply grateful for your time, love, energy, and support, and for all that we've shared on this journey. So big up yourselves, stay blessed. And if you see me around, give me a shout out, give me some hugs and say hi, high fives, high tens, I love that stuff. So yeah. And in the meantime, let's love ourselves more fully and wholly, and love each other more fully and wholly, and keep the good, love, intimate, vulnerable, beautiful vibrations expanding for all to feel, all to know, all to see, all to be. Love you. Stay blessed. And until the next time, ciao for now.
Thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out at igniteintimacy.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a review and a rating. It helps more people know about us. We love to hear from you. You can email us with questions, comments, or suggestions to hello@igniteintimacy.com. And tell your friends. Music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Laura Aiisha. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.